I gotta tout our Gavel banger.
We have right here.
I agree.
Yes,
I love
We're
it.
not just saying that to like lie to you, for real. It's like Gavel banger.
It's my
is
favorite
a
beer. I drank it
staple.
yesterday.
that's
He's-
awesome. To
He
hear.
has called and texted me about the Gavel Banger the last 4 to 5 days.
Oh,
so he
yeah.
was when I saw his eyes light up when the Gavel Banger got in front of him. I mean, I got excited for him. But yeah, what's the backstory behind the name of the Gavel Banger?
Well, so
Y'all ready for this?
Welcome to the Be Different Brewery Tour.
Today we check out the ridiculous views of Taft's Ale House with owner and managing partner Dave Kassling.
Produced and edited by Nick Given and Greg Witchard. Hosted as always by Brad Redford.
I appreciate you guys being here. It's been a wild ride, and it's cool to try and talk more about what we've done. I don't think we necessarily look back as much as we should about some of the successes that we've had so far. It's funny because when we first looked at this building and looked at OTR, I was actually in New York City, and I own 2 restaurants up there, and it was the restaurant business is hard in New York, as it is anywhere. But when my business partner came to me and asked if I wanted to join him to open a ale house in Cincinnati, my thought process was, that's a crazy idea. I mean, I don't know Cincinnati. I don't really know. I mean, I like beer. I like to drink beer, but
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about making beer. So once I decided to come down and check it out, it was just too good to pass up. The whole revitalization process of OTR, everything that was going on in the area was very exciting, and I had never seen a redevelopment of an area like what was.
What year was that for you?
That was 2013.
13.
So I had opened my first store in 2009 in Rockefeller Center in New York.
Okay.
And then I opened the second one in Grand Central Terminal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so those were actually quick service restaurants, so very different than the full service world, especially the brewery world.
Yeah.
But that transition also sounded like a fun challenge.
How did you end up picking those locations in New York? That seems like such a challenging place to kind of start and try and make something work.
Yeah, it's funny. I partnered with a family friend who owned 11 stores in California, and they're called the Buckhorn Grill. They're still around, and we together were looking for spots because I really liked what they were doing. They were offering tri-tip steak, which is very popular on the West Coast, not very well known anywhere outside of California. So the thought process there was, okay, let's bring something to New York that New York does not have, which there's very few things that New York doesn't already have in some capacity, right?
Yeah.
So tri-tip, it's a wonderful cut of beef. It's the bottom part of the sirloin. We smoke it in a smoker and finish in the oven to medium rare after also charring it over an open flame.
Greg's mouth is salivating.
Gosh, it is getting close to lunchtime, and I'm starting to get
Well,
hungry.
sounds
right
really
now.
good.
We might have to feed you guys a couple here. I think we can arrange that. But so yeah, I mean, those were challenging locations and in a weird. I had no restaurant experience at all at that point, and I went to California and trained. I didn't necessarily realize that I'd end up pushing a mop and picking up fries that fell on the floor and everything in between.
Right.
Did everything that you
Oh,
could
and
possibly do.
When you own a restaurant, you have to be. You're the plumber. You do all the stuff. I mean, honestly, you do. Like, you do everything.
You do it all.
It's not just the shaking the people's hands when they come in the door and
The
tell them
grease,
about what's
the
on.
grease traps.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
I mean, you got to do it all.
It's gross, yeah. And it was it's one of those things where I was only 27 at the time, or 26, and I didn't fully know what I was getting into, to be honest.
That's probably why you did it.
That's exactly right. It was that or business school, and I think that was the business school that I got at the time.
This story from Dave, it's pretty similar to the last interview that we did with 50 West Max Fram. Don't feel like you need it all figured out before you get started. Have a passion, enough of a vision, and go after it. Oh yeah, and circle back to listen to Max's interview after this.
So yeah, unfortunately, my family friend who I was partnered with in California, he got sick and was no longer involved with the business. I wasn't necessarily looking to do something else, but I also was not going to open up more of these stores. It was called Tri-Tip Grill. So actually, when my business partner for Taft came to me, it almost made perfect sense at the perfect time. Came here, checked it out, and thought it was just an amazing opportunity, and really liked Cincinnati. I grew up in Pittsburgh, so it's a similar town. Actually, I probably shouldn't be telling people that I'm a Pittsburgh guy. That's
There'll be a few people here that.
Well, you're not a
understand.
Steeler fan anymore.
No,
And if
no,
you
I'm
are, don't tell anybody.
100% Bengals now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, it was a great opportunity and a great place, and a great part of town. And we walked into this building and looked at it. It was hard to visualize.
I'm sure.
Yeah, what did it look like when you first came in this building? What did it look like?
A lot of dust. I mean, all the flooring, it was gross. I mean, it's just like what you would think of as an abandoned building. I mean, it hadn't been an active church since the 80s, so it really hadn't been doing anything. And right before we had come in, this floor that we're sitting on right now, right here, actually there was a giant hole here. And then the roof, there was also a giant hole in the roof. So hurricane came through here a few years before we had opened, and 3CDC they had a choice. They owned the property, and they owned a lot of property in OTR, and specifically on this block. And they had a choice. They could either knock down the building, or they could preserve it, save the roof, and then hope that a tenant would come along eventually and do something like what we've done here. So we're very happy that they made the choice that they did. So they spent $1 million
Wow.
years before anyone came along. And I know there was some interest from other groups before we came in and did our thing. But we started talking in 2013, and it was my business partner is originally from Cincinnati. He went to UC, and I had gotten to know him just through connections in Pittsburgh. And so he was a Cincinnati native, but living in Pittsburgh at the time. And he knew the city, he knew the town, he knew everything that was going on here, and I was happy to be able to come here and see it, and then work together to make this whole thing happen.
Yeah, I can't imagine walking in here with it all broken down because this place is massive.
It's big.
I just learned like a month ago that you had downstairs as well. Had no clue. I had only been up here and then up top. So like the bar downstairs is great.
Yeah.
So you guys have really maximized the space here. It's been pretty great.
Yeah, it's interesting because originally we were going to just take the top 2 floors, and then 3CDC was going to rent out the bottom floor to another group. I probably shouldn't say the name, but a famous bakery in Cincinnati.
Okay.
So we realized that we couldn't do without that space. We needed it for back of house for one, and then also we wanted to maximize our total drinking capabilities here. And our design team, actually, we had brought in from Brooklyn, 2 hip mid-30s girls from Brooklyn. We were like, okay, this is a good group to bring in here. Typically, I believe in going local and being part of the community. In this particular case, we wanted to bring somebody with a completely different perspective on Cincinnati, someone who hadn't already worked on a bunch of projects in OTR. We wanted to have someone come in with a completely different mindset, and they came in and just did a bang-up job. And then especially in Nellie's down below, it was meant to be a little more of a speakeasy, different atmosphere, less brewery, still with our beers, obviously, a little more cocktail-centric, but just a different space all the way around. And just as you said, people come here and they don't even realize it exists. There's a small door over there, and sometimes people find it by mistake, and they're wowed, and that's what we like. We like that element of surprise.
Yeah, I just came in the wrong door, and I was like, the wrong place, and I
You
saw
literally probably stumbled in and he went to the wrong door.
Yeah, well, it was down here for a Sunday fun day, so yeah, I mean, this was amongst the stops. And when I walked in, I realized I could get a cocktail. I was stoked. I was like, "We're staying here.
That's awesome.
I'm in."
That's what we like to hear. And
Yeah,
it's funny
it was good.
all the time people try and come in the wrong door. So like Nellie's isn't open until 4 p.m. most days, and we were open for lunch upstairs. So people will try and come in the Nellie's door. It's locked, and we try to. It's funny. You always think when you put up signs or you put things on windows that people are going to read them. It doesn't work.
Never
that way.
works.
No.
Well, and that brings us to the food. I mean, you don't just come to Taft to have beer. You come here for the building that we talked about, but also the food. I mean, I've had the steak. I've had the salad here. They're fantastic. So kind of just explain the menu and how all those items came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I had partnered with Dave Williams, part of that whole concept was to bring the food that we had in New York to this full-service brew pub. And you can see the kitchen right here. It's really not that big. I mean, we have 250 seats in this restaurant, and so to be able to serve that on a busy Saturday night when we're on a wait at the door is a challenge. So we knew that having a quick service style kitchen, which is what we were coming from in New York, would make a lot of sense for the limited space that we had. As big as this place is, a lot of the nooks and crannies are not very big. The offices downstairs are very small. The cooler we have is big enough to service what we need for the brewery and for kegs and all that. But even that can be considered a little bit tight. So we wanted to bring tri-tip here because just like New York didn't have tri-tip, Cincinnati didn't have tri-tip. So we wanted to bring a unique offering. One of the things that we try and do in everything that we do is offer something different that you can't necessarily get somewhere else. Because if you're doing something that somebody else is doing down the street, what makes you special. So everything that we do, one of our purposes is to try and offer things that you can't find anywhere else. So that's what we did.
If somebody had never been here before and they came in and they wanted to get a beer and an entree, which ones would you recommend?
I mean, the Big Billy sandwich it's that tri-tip steak I was describing that's charred and then smoked and then finished a medium rare, and then we take it on our slicers, slice it super thin, put it on a roll with caramelized onions and au jus dipping sauce, and that's
I'm in.
Yeah, I love it. As many years as I've been around it now, I still don't get sick of it. So that's a good sign. And then beer wise, I gotta tout our Gavel banger. We
have right here.
I agree.
Yes,
This is Greg's. Like Greg one day came.
My favorite Cincinnati beer.
Yeah, he came home one day.
awesome.
He had this new beer, and then it was always around.
Yeah, I love
We're
it.
not just saying that to lie to you, for real. It's like Gavel banger.
It's my
is
favorite
a
beer. I drank it
staple.
yesterday.
That's
He's-
awesome.
He has called and texted me about the Gavel Banger the last 4 to 5 days.
Oh,
so he
yeah.
was when I saw his eyes light up when the Gavel Banger got in front of him. I mean, I got excited for him. But yeah, what's the backstory behind the name of the Gavel Banger?
Well, so one of the interesting aspects of William Howard Taft being our guy is that there's a lot of history there, and obviously he was a president in the early 1900s. He was also on the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, which is actually never happened. There's never been a president who's also been a Supreme Court justice. So that's one of the interesting historical aspects of William Howard Taft. So Gavel Banger is an ode to that, and it's just a cool name. I mean, you can say many
great
different
name.
things. Like, oh yeah, give me a banger. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fun name, and it's interesting because we did just win Cincinnati's favorite beer in the Cincinnati Enquirer, and that was
Really?
awesome. Yeah, it was all fan
I voted
voting.
10,000 times.
So now we know what we want. That's great. Appreciate it.
So talk about how that process was, right? So you said you'd never come from beer. You had the restaurant. You'd never gone down that path, right? So how do you, from beginning thoughts and ideas of sure I'll move to Cincinnati, we'll start this thing, and then through now you're distributing. So
Yeah.
how does that kind of unfold?
A lot of learning, a lot of surrounding yourselves with people who really know what they're doing. It's funny because I've always wanted to be an expert in everything, and you can't. So without the right people around you that really know what they're doing and are good at it, you're not going to make it very far. So even in the case of the kitchen, I mean, I know the tri-tip, I know the kitchen concept through and through. Am I awesome in the kitchen? No, but fortunately, I've been able to find some people who can really knock it out of the park in there, and we have a great team. It all starts from your people, and I know that's cliche and everyone hears that in business, but it's absolutely true. And we've been fortunate to build a team of great people who every day show up for work and want to be excellent, and that's hard to do. So, and especially on the brewing side, I mean, we have a team of brewers that I everyone tells me this, and I don't think they're just buttering me up, that we have the best brew team in Cincinnati, and I totally believe that. And just knowing how much they care and the passion they put into the liquid. I really do think we have the best liquid in Cincinnati too when it comes to beer. And look, we're all a community. We're all trying to win together. But at the same time, I gotta say we want to win. We want to win those awards.
Right.
We want to win the Great American Beer Fest Gold, which we did. I guess that'd be a year and a half ago now for our Gustav Vienna Lager. That was a massive win for our company. And we're just gonna keep going and keep trying to do special things. That's the goal.
I think it's time for Brad to
Let's see you try this Gavel Banger.
his
You
little
gonna pop one in
testers.
there? Well, just for a little bit of background on me, Dave, I'm normally your lightweight drinker.
He's a recovering Bud Light
Yeah.
drinker.
Yeah, so this brewery tour has really got me out of my comfort zone a little bit, and I'm becoming a little bit more accustomed to IPAs and lagers and different types of beers at the variety of facilities. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to dive into the Gavel Banger, which has an incredible symbol on the front with William Howard Taft. Let's hear the crack.
And if
Yeah, you got to crack it
And
up.
Brad, if you notice, if you turn that can around on the other side there,
Yeah.
that's a variation on our logo with Taft holding a gavel. It's we
I
do
love
that
that.
as a little Easter egg on all of our cans.
But
nice.
But it is
I
not
would have
known
never
that
noticed that.
it's not known that Taft was a drinker, though, right? We do not know that for sure.
We do not know that for sure.
But we
I will
think.
not. We think. We know that his wife was Nellie.
Oh, okay.
Yes, she was very into booze.
Really?
She was an advocate for it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
an
Yes.
absolute
Yes.
advocate.
I mean, it's a great beer. I mean, I would say it's a lot different than what I'm used to, but it is fantastic.
So my
Dave.
question is, would you have
Yeah.
a second one? Not a second sip, a second full beer.
Oh, I mean, I'd have 3 or 4 of these. I'd put them down.
Oh,
with
Brad,
my
I
beer.
think slow your roll. Have 2 first.
All right,
if you
thank
have
you
4,
guys for
I don't
saying-
know. You might be blacked
Dave,
out.
one thing about me that you'll recognize, I talk a big game a lot of the time, so I'll have 3 or 4 of these and I'll go right back to work and I'll be completely fine. I do want to jump into one more beer that's in front of us right now, and that's this green colored beer right here in a can. That's Nellie's Key Lime Caribbean style ale. Can you give us the background on this one, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Nellie was William Howard Taft's wife, and she was a lovely lady. And she definitely enjoyed her beer, and she enjoyed alcohol. She was a fan. But one of the other historical aspects of William Howard Taft is he spent some time in the Philippines, and so the original thought behind this beer is we wanted to have a taste of the tropics, get a little summer beer going, and it was a great excuse to do a little key lime beer.
Okay.
And this has been one of our staples since day one.
I feel like this is right directly
I
up
think he's
Brad's
gonna
alley.
like it. Yeah.
This is up Brad's alley for sure.
What do you think, Brad?
Hey, guys.
yeah,
I think I just had a little bit of heaven right there.
Yeah,
with
I knew
with
that was up
taste
your
right
style
there.
for sure.
All summer long, right there.
Yeah, the Nellie's key lime, I would probably go for that over the Gavel banger, just from a personal standpoint of I'm not a heavy beer drinker at all. So like when you got into it, you go from New York to Cincinnati, you get into the beer industry. Like what kind of beer did you like going into this? Like how much did you know about beers and the styles and the culture of beer? Because when you bring someone into a brewery that knows their beer, they're asking a ton of questions. Like, how did you navigate that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's funny because I certainly, Brad, we might be kindred spirits because I certainly came from the light beer background.
You're a good man.
You're the first one in this process to say that. He's so excited.
You are
Well,
the first one.
I college was a great beer drinking time for me, and a lot of that was probably the worst light beer that exists. But I'm not going to say any names.
Yeah, I won't say it either.
But either way, I always have enjoyed really good beer. And what I really liked about the team that we were building in the very beginning is that our brew team knew that I wasn't necessarily a total beer geek, and that was okay. Because a lot of the people who come through our doors are not total beer geeks. Our brew team, they are as hardcore as it gets, and they always want to do very traditional, very they don't even like the word craft, to be honest, because it's almost a little bit too much of a buzzword. They're traditionalists, and I really like that because we appeal to the heavy craft beer drinking crowd, and then we also appeal to the everyday person who might be drinking Bud Light on a regular basis. When you have a big place like we have, and you're also trying to get out in the market and get to as many bars and restaurants as possible, you want to have a wide variety, and you want to be able to attract a wide variety of people to your space. So beer drinkers of all kinds. And so we're for me, there was a lot of learning, and I'm still learning every day. I learned all about the brewing process, learned all the different styles of beers. And I will say I've definitely become more of a hop guy. I love Gavel. I think Gavel's my favorite that we do.
There's a chance for me, is what you're saying. There's a chance where I can dive in.
Yeah, I mean, I've been immersed in it, obviously, and that was good for me to learn that people can be converted and can learn. And this is why craft beer has been so successful recently, and how it's been growing very fast and continues to grow. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, do you see that market at all, locally or nationally, slowing down at all? I mean, we've seen such a rise probably since 2012, 2013. I mean, your company, Taft, is coming here and has multiple locations, is moving to Columbus in November. So do you see a cap at all on this market, or do you think we're still at the beginning stages?
I think, it's interesting because I think it's always evolving. I don't think that beer is going away. I think that it is going to shift a little bit more towards lighter things, one of the challenges that exist right now with the hoppier beers is that they're heavy. the younger generation's moving more towards health. They're moving more towards being less indulgent, and so we have to change and adapt along with that. There's always going to be the group that goes after that niche craft group that is going to want the hoppiest, heaviest beers that exist. But then there's also, we still want to attract the folks who are looking for something lighter. Seltzers have been very big in the last year. We're not going to do a seltzer.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just a little. You don't want to. So you want to adapt to the trends, but you also don't want to.
Don't swallow the bad ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And seltzers are bad. I mean, at the
They're
end of the day,
so bad.
Yeah, but that's what
And when
they're made
someone
to be.
gives me a good one, then fine.
Yeah.
Until then,
we're doing different
drink a
variations,
vodka
though.
soda.
Yeah, no, totally. So like we just did a raspberry version of Nellie's that's out this summer as one of our seasonals, and it's just killing it. People love it. It's a lighter, fruity beer.
It has the like the pink tap, right? Yeah, I've seen it all over the place.
Yeah, we'll get you a taste
Yeah.
before we get out of here. But
good
it's
stuff.
but it's tasty too, and it's a great summer beer. And what I've always really liked about the craft culture and craft beers, it's very outdoorsy, and so you get a lot of folks who like to hike, like to go on the rivers, like to go, skiing. I mean, there's a constant thread between the outdoors and craft beer. So, we try to cater to that as much as we can, and that's actually why cans have become so popular, because you can fit it in your backpack. It's easier to travel with. So that's why we went with all cans. Cans were a big decision.
Yeah.
for
So
us.
the can thing is so my question is I'm really intrigued on like the branding of the cans, right? Because I think that the space makes you buy the cans just as much as the can makes you visit the space.
Yeah.
Did you find a correlation with that at all once you guys started distributing? Or
Yeah. The whole branding side, that was one of the things that I really wanted to focus on when we were first starting this project. And when we made this, we still work with a group. They're actually based out of New Jersey, called One Trick Pony, who I had worked with up in New York. But we really went down a deep exploration to try and figure out what we should call this thing. And we obviously wanted to have a very local presence. And we actually found it funny that William Howard Taft, such a big time name in Cincinnati, but everything that his name's attached to is very serious. From the Taft Theater to the Taft Highway to the Taft Museum, everything is very serious about him. And then we looked at his likeness and said, you know what? He was a big boy, and
he was a portly gentleman.
He was, and he clearly
he
enjoyed
probably
the
liked the
steak.
finer things in life.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he was famous for getting stuck in the White House bathtub, and to us that was, we don't know if that's true or not, but everyone thinks it is. So it's
And that's
just,
all that actually matters.
Yeah,
right?
I hope it's true.
Well, there's pictures of the bathtub. I don't know if it's actually his, but there are pictures out there of this ginormous bathtub with 3 dudes sitting in it. So we thought we'd have a little fun with it and take something serious and put a fun spin on it, and that became our early brand mantra. We wanted to take serious thing and put a very fun spin on it. Like, we're in a church right now. It's been decommissioned. It's no longer a church, but we put a fun spin on it and made it a brewery. Same thing goes with our warehouse out in Spring Grove. It's our production facility. It was a P&G. We think they made Tide Pods there, which is very serious. Well, maybe a little too serious. And then, so we put a fun spin on that by making it a production brewery, and then adding in New Haven style pizza and doing something again that no one else is doing in Cincinnati. So from the can aspect, we wanted to bring that fun element in, and we actually recently just did a brand refresh that we just launched in March. So we had been working on that since August. It's one of those things where, like, oh yeah, this will take a month, and no, never works that way.
No.
And I love the branding side, and I love working with our branding team, and now our in-house marketing team. We continue to grow that side as well.
Do you, when you go to, like, you said your Vienna Lager one, do you go to a lot of those events around the country, or you do travel around a lot for that?
Yeah. It's more our brew team generally will be taking those. I did go to GABF this past fall.
Okay, so GABF stands for Great American Beer Festival. It's one of the largest beer competitions in the world. Winning any medal here is a huge deal.
Which was a very fun experience. I mean, Denver's a fun town. There's so much to do. I went rock climbing for the first time, which I didn't make it up very high, but I gave it a shot. But it was really cool, and cool to see all these breweries out there that have put their blood and sweat into these beers that they're just dying to win medals for, and it's really hard to win a medal. We did not win a medal in 2018, unfortunately, but winning the gold for Gustav in 2017 was just incredible. And we also won a silver at the World Beer Cup for that beer. So that's it's rare to see that you might win 2 medals for the same beer. So we know that beer is a winner, and we're gonna keep submitting it, and hopefully it'll cash some more here down the line.
Yeah.
I did. I've asked everybody this so far, and weirdest, worst, best beer that you've had since you've been doing this.
Oh man, worst beer?
Well, so initially I asked, "What's the weirdest beer?" to Jason Brewer from Listerman's, and he said, "I can't tell you the weirdest, but I can tell you the worst." So,
And then
so do you have any
everyone's
sort
kind of gone to the worst.
yeah, everyone's kind of floated that way. So, have you had anything that's just outlandish?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I don't want to bring up this stereotype of us as being a little more conservative of a brewery, because I don't think that's necessarily true. I think we've done a lot of different things, a lot of weird things. Actually, one of the weirder ones that people love. There was a Facebook group that was brought that someone created and got a bunch of followers just to try and get us to bring this beer back. It was a coconut brown ale. So
Really?
It's a brown ale that it's called Caliber Cut. That is actually it's a summer beer, even though it's a darker beer. So that's what makes it a little bit weird. I actually really like that beer. That
is interesting. That is the first coconut beer I've heard of.
Yeah, and it actually it really does bring that that tropics to mind. It's the kind of thing that I could actually drink on the beach, which that is weird.
Yeah.
Drinking a brown ale
On the beach is strange. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. As far as bad beers, I mean, fortunately here I can honestly say we have not put out much that I can look at and say, oh yeah, that's terrible. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, your guys' beers are great.
Oh,
I just didn't know
in
if
general.
you guys tried, when you go to these
like the
events,
fests.
if you've tried any of, maybe you don't have to say a name or anything, but just like a mango habanero or something like that. I don't know.
You keep seeing these people doing different things. I mean, I can remember at GABF there was a guy doing a pizza beer.
Whoa,
and that was just out there. I mean, I think it was basil and had some. I don't know what else.
Oh, that's
exactly
kind of
he was
gross.
Because
It just sounds gross.
creativity can
really
go
good,
wrong.
though.
There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
mix between being creative and but you still have to fit into something where people will enjoy it to some degree. You can only get so creative and outside of the box where it becomes
Before
not
it's bad.
recognizable and people do not like it anymore.
Well, sometimes things need to be separated, right? So pizza and beer go great together.
Together,
but don't
amazing.
Put them together. Just
Yeah,
don't put them in
yeah.
the same mix. That's just
It's a novel
That's
concept.
funny. That's the first I've ever heard of something like that.
Yeah, well, and look, everyone's trying to push the envelope and do something different, and it's hard to achieve that without going too far, over the edge.
Yep.
How does that creative process work for your team?
Well, we as an owner and one of the managing partners, I let them do their thing.
Okay.
I don't interfere with their work. I will give some input here and there on certain things that I think are going to be really good for business or really good for for our guests who are coming in. But for the most part, they're doing all the magic there, and the way I look at it is just don't mess with it if it's been really good, and it's been really good. So they're extremely creative. They're always trying to do the right thing by doing different things, but also not going too far over that line where it starts to get a little too weird.
Yeah.
It's probably good though. I mean, if your boss lets you do what you want to do, you'll probably do it a lot better than if your boss beat you down about something you didn't really want to do.
Yeah,
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You say boss, and it's like, I don't even think of it that way.
Do you write their checks?
Well,
Workplace associates.
Fair.
There you go.
Fair,
Workplace.
fair point. No. But we let them do their thing, and that's part of it. If you're rigid and you try and control too much, that's why you just got to get the right people in place. If you're the right people in place, no one's perfect. Everyone's got their issues. Pluses and everyone has their flaws. But if you know that you've got the right team in place that cares and the passion is there, that they're going to produce good liquid. And we've been very fortunate with our team, and we've been fortunate to keep our team. We like to think that we treat them very well. I hope they would agree if they can hear me. But we care a lot about them, and we care a lot about our team. So I actually in the hospitality world. I had followed the mantra of Danny Meyer, who in New York had done a bunch of restaurants, famous ones, including Shake Shack, which is probably now his most famous one. But he was all about employees first, and even before the guest. if you take care of your team, then they're going to take care of the guests, and that falls through. And we're happy to say that we've been very good with it so far.
How do you maintain that? Like with so many moving parts, as an owner, you're moving around. You have a building in Columbus. I mean, how do you maintain that communication and make your employees, make sure they know that you care about them each and every day?
It's hard, especially as you get bigger. You get more and more employees. We're up to about 130 now. So for me to know everybody's name, to be able to keep track of the turnover that does happen, it's challenging. I will say, though, we have a ton of employees who have been here since the very beginning, who have moved on in the organization, have moved into different roles, or have stayed in their roles that they love. We have a bunch of bartenders who have been bartenders the whole way through, and it's a similar kind of management strategy that if you make sure you let them know that you care about them, and if you make sure that they're compensated appropriately and that they're happy, then they're most likely going to stick with you. And we're really fortunate with that.
As a bartender goes, you keep the people coming through the door, I got your back. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you keep the people coming through the doors and we're all good.
Exactly.
All right, Dave, I got 2 questions for you, and then we're going to let you get out of here because you've been very kind with your time, and we appreciate being here. And I think it's actually opening up soon to the public here for lunch, so we got to get out of here. So my one question would be, being an outsider to Cincinnati, starting in New York, going out to California to work, and then kind of settling here and creating a space that I think truly embodies OTR and the spirit of Cincinnati, and what you guys have done here is so impressive. Because I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts were of Cincinnati initially, and now that you've come here, you've built a successful business here. Like, what are your thoughts of it now, and where Cincinnati can go in the future?
I mean, Cincinnati is an awesome town. I can honestly say that, and it's one of those things where, when you don't know a city, or you don't know a place, and you're thrust into it, you have no choice but to learn it and to really get to know the people and what they're all about and what makes them tick. People of Cincinnati absolutely love their hometown, and they love their craft beers. I mean, I've now traveled to a bunch of cities where beer is a big deal. I honestly think that Cincinnati has the biggest local beer following, and we're fortunate to even have our name mentioned in the same breath as some of these other great Cincinnati breweries. And I really do believe it's going to continue to grow in the right direction. And I think, if you look at OTR and everything that's been happening down here, I'm proud to say that we opened a business in OTR and that we're the biggest restaurant down here. And, that's when you talk about winning awards, or, having, good accolades of your business, to me, that's one of the best ones, to say that we were part of this redevelopment and that we helped to build something that not only creates jobs, but also brings something wonderful to the people in the community. And that's what we like to think that we do.
Awesome. All right. Well, our Cincinnati listeners will like that. So, Dave, nice job on that.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks.
So we always finish with this question because, our name is Be Different, and we're always curious on how are you guys different? You've talked a lot about it, but we're going to kind of collage all these interviews at the end, and we're just kind of asking one simple question about 20 to 30 seconds. But what makes you and your team different?
Well, we strive every day to do unique things that are really, really, really good, that hopefully you haven't necessarily had before. So when you talk about tri-tip steak, when you talk about New Haven style pizza, those are things that connect to our brand, that also you probably will not find anywhere else in Ohio. So if we know that what we're doing is good, and we put the right processes in place to make sure that we hit it out of the park for you when you come in, we know that we're gonna gain a fan, and we're happy to say that I think we've gained quite a few over the years that we've been open. And in Columbus, we're gonna be doing even more different things. So nothing that we do we want to be just a cookie cutter. While we are going to be offering New Haven style pizza in Columbus, it's going to be a completely different building, completely different build out, completely different design. And we like to keep people on their toes, and just like on the back of the can with the different elements on our logo. That's just an extra little surprise that we hope that you do catch. And if you catch it and you find it cool, and you're going to like us even more.
I only caught it because you said it, but it's great.
But now tell people, and I'll act like you didn't tell me.
Because I was seeing it with the key line, with
That's
with the umbrella in the drink.
Yep. And
It's
we just
good.
did a Cincy Cobra beer where he's holding a boxing glove up. So it's
Okay.
pretty cool.
Good stuff.
All right, that was fantastic. I think I speak for Nick Given and Greg Wichard, so that was a fantastic interview.
Great interview.
I don't
You guys
like
okay
it when
with
you
that?
speak for me, but today
Yeah.
it's okay.
I mean, I don't
That's
want to
okay.
ever speak
As long as
for
it's
you.
like 3 words at a time.
But I
that's
feel like
fine.
I already know what you would say, and I feel like we're all on the same page right now.
You're
So that's why I said that.
Thanks,
so
Brad.
don't take it as a slight.
It's not a slight.
Don't take it as a shot. It's positive. We're all on the same page. All right. Well, that is it for the Be Different podcast here at Taft's Ale House. Be sure to follow us on all social media, and be sure to follow Taft's and come in and get a tri-tip steak and get a gavel banger. All right, make it happen. Don't say
Get
you're
down
going to
here.
do
It
it.
feels
Just
good to
just
say
go.
gavel banger too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
just like
go-
give me that
That
gavel.
sounds
Just
good.
go and make it happen. All right. Thanks, guys, for listening. Be Different's out of here.